Graham Matthews, Bleacher Report, FanSided, Daily DDT. My man, how you doing?
Doing great, brother. How about you? Long time no speak, at least
I'm
on
good.
camera.
Long time no speak, long time no see, but I'm glad you're back here. I know we had a long summer. Every summer we take a little break, a little hiatus, but now we're back. September football is back. We got pay-per-views galore coming up, but always good to hear from you and see you, bro. Hope you had a great summer, by the way.
You as well. You as well.
Yeah, it was. Summer's always short, man. So it's
Too short criminally.
you wait all year. You go through the winter. Obviously, I'm in New York. You're in Connecticut, so we go through a lot of cold weather. But once the summertime comes around, it's like you get ready. But then by the time you know it, we're back in the fall weather and back to square one.
Yep.
But you can find Graham Matthews on Twitter /X at WrestleRant. Find myself, Rainy J. Cruz, RENDY, letter JCRUZ. Find the podcast on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, also on Amazon Music. If you're watching us now, we're here live on both X, Twitter, and YouTube. Go to youtube.com/Cruise Control Podcast. Any questions or comments you got for us throughout the program, me and Graham will get right to it. So, Graham, we have a lot of things to get to. Because it's been a while, been a couple of weeks, maybe like a month or so. I think probably since SummerSlam we haven't been on, and a lot of things have transpired. So for those who don't know, SmackDown debuts tonight on the USA Network. So we'll get to that in a bit. We got Cody Rhodes being number one on the PWI Top 500 list. We also have Raw going back to 2 hours for the remainder of 2024.
Yep.
So I know a lot of fans were happy about that. We have a very interesting Netflix documentary coming out on Mr. McMahon, the rise and fall of Mr. McMahon. That should be I think it's a 5-6 part series.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe it's 6 parts.
So that's going to be very interesting to follow. We have a throwback thing coming back, Saturday night's main event. So those who are like in my age frame would recall that event happening in the late 80s and 90s on NBC, obviously with them going with the Peacock stuff. So that should be very interesting. Also, we got Bad Blood coming up on October 5th, which is less than a month from now. We are getting some matches confirmed. So, Graham, where do you want to start? Where should we start?
Out of all of that,
It's up to you, man. It's up to you. Ball's in your court.
You mentioned it last. Let's get into Bad Blood first. We'll get that stuff out of the way first.
Let's do it.
So, I mean, out of all the matches that are announced, we got 3 matches that are set up so far. Rhea and Liv, a lot of rematches, obviously.
Yeah.
They're doing Rhea and Liv, Punk and Drew, which we can start with because that's for one specific reason that I know you all appreciate. Gunther and Sami Zayn's probably happening for the World Heavyweight Championship, just to point that out, but that hasn't been officially set in stone yet. And then what was the third match? Oh, it was I don't remember.
Are we getting Uso and Breaker, you think?
Probably, but that wasn't announced. Damian Priest and Finn Balor. That's what it was. So they announced those 3 matches, and I'm sure you appreciate, Randy, the fact that the Hell in the Cell match, which is surely going to main event, regardless of what the world title match is or the WWE title match, 27 years to the day since Bad Blood 97, first ever Bad Blood Hell in the Cell main event. Between Shawn Michaels and Undertaker. It's on the exact day. They're bringing back the pay-per-view for that reason. I mean, this has got to be the blow-off, right? They've been feuding since January between Punk and Drew. Do you feel that this is the culmination of the feud? And since we last spoke to, a lot has transpired with what happened at Bash in Berlin, that is, a couple of weeks ago, Punk winning the scrap match. Are you as excited as I am personally for that Cell match, or are you as fatigued on the feud by some other people tend to be right now?
I think some people are fatigued by it. I'm not. Because I think this is the culmination. I think any rivalry you have is a culmination of a Hell in a Cell, Steel Cage, maybe a last man standing match, I Quit. But to do it on the exact day as you mentioned, because you know me, I'm the anniversary guy.
Yep.
You know, so when I see in October 5th, Bad Blood has not been used in how long, Graham?
04 maybe. I think they brought it. It was in the 90s. Yeah, I think it's been 20 years because they had it in the late 90s, 97, maybe 98, maybe. I don't remember. But they definitely had it in 03 and 04, yeah, for Shawn and I think they've actually had a Hell in a Cell match. I don't know how many Bad Bloods we've had. We can check that, but obviously the first one, I know 03, I'm almost positive is when they did Kevin Nash and Triple H inside Hell in the Cell. And then 04 was Triple H and Shawn Michaels inside Hell in the Cell. So it almost feels like, in a way, Bad Blood is the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. No, bring it back every year, just do Hell in the Cell. Just, bring it back when it means something, obviously. But, I mean, that is pretty fucking cool. They're keeping that gimmick alive of doing Hell in the Cell matches on a Bad Blood show, even though we haven't gotten this show in almost exactly 20 years.
So I'm looking at it now. First one, you said on the 5th of October, 97. Then you had June 15th, 03, Triple H, Kevin Nash in a Hell in a Cell match for the World Heavyweight Championship. Then it was June 13th, 2004, Triple H, Shawn Michaels in a Hell in a Cell match. And then Bad Blood, 2024. So, yeah, so it'll be 20 years that we've had the Bad Blood name in the company. So once you see that, and I saw the promos with Cody Rhodes and Metro Boomin, it's going to be in Atlanta. Cody Rhodes is not on the card yet, but I think he will be. To some extent, he'll be on the card. But to your point, I like the Drew and Punk rivalry. I think once you saw Drew win at SummerSlam, you kind of knew, all right, they might do the rematch in Bash in Berlin. Punk is going to win that. It'll be 1-1, and they got to settle everything in the Hell in a Cell match. And I, after this, it should be done. So they should go their separate ways. I think Punk is going to win this rivalry, and then it'll be very intriguing to see where does he go from now on. Where does Drew McIntyre go from now on? Is it championship status? Is it? We have no idea. But to culminate a rivalry, Hell in a Cell, which is weird because I seen Vince Russo put out a week ago. It's supposed to be Hell in the Cell, not Hell in a Cell. So
interesting.
When it was brought to in 97, and there's a promo where McMahon and Undertaker the night after Ground Zero, and McMahon is saying, "Oh, the steel cage and locked in. It's gonna be Hell in the Cell." And I was like, "Oh, like it was Hell in the Cell for quite a bit." But now I think we've all been accustomed to Hell in a Cell. I don't know it's a major difference for you, but I kind of like Hell in the Cell a little more than a Cell, right?
Yeah, because it makes it sound like it's a singular cell. Like, oh, it's like the cell, like it's the Hell in the Cell structure as opposed to just any random structure. It's a small difference, but I mean, yeah, I think I prefer Hell in the Cell, but it's been so long that I think everyone will always call it Hell in a Cell. We had a pay-per-view called Hell in a Cell, so.
And I think what makes me and you happy is that this is the only Hell in a Cell match on the card. Obviously, when you had the pay-per-view Hell in a Cell, it was 3 of them. And it was like, all right, your match should not be in there. Your match should not be in there. A main event, yeah, but they're not overdoing it. It's a specialty match to culminate rivalries. I don't need 3 Hell in a Cell matches on Bad Blood. So that's the only main rivalry, big time rivalry going on. I know we got the Bloodline and Cody Rhodes, but that kind of goes in and out because Roman just got back. But I think Punk and McIntyre, deservingly so, has the hottest rivalry going on in wrestling, and it should be done in a Hell in a Cell match.
No, I agree. I think it's the perfect match to blow off the feud. We've kind of been expecting this for the last little while, and it's a big attraction. I am still personally invested in the feud. I mean, we're at a point now where they're kind of doing some of the same stuff, so they definitely need to wrap up the rivalry. It's been going on since January, so that sort of thing is expected, but we are nearing the end, so I'm excited about that. But before then, though, we should also transition to this. SmackDown tonight. We got the WWE Championship on the line. You have to imagine the WWE title will also be defended on that event. But before then, though, it's being defended tonight. Kicking off the show, actually, is what Triple H said. Cody Rhodes, Solo Sikoa, SummerSlam rematch. Inside of not Hell in the Cell, but a steel cage. To keep out the bloodline. Will it actually keep out the bloodline? Who the fuck knows? But we know Solo is not winning the WWE title. Cody Rhodes is obviously retaining. But like I said, it's their big USA Network premiere. It's opening the show. And Triple H said in the tweet when promoting the show yesterday, I think it was, he said, as for the rest of the show, you're just going to have to wait and see. So let me pose you this question, Randy. What do you think that means? Are we getting the final boss back tonight? what does that mean? I mean, they're not really advertising a hell of a whole lot for this show. So, I mean, unless they close out with another big main event that they haven't announced yet, I'm not really sure what else that could possibly mean.
I think, if you put the pen in my hand, which, sometimes you may not agree with, seeing TKO put a tweet out with the eye emojis
that too,
tweet, it's like, all right, you don't do that if like a certain somebody might be available or might be in the area for tonight. It is the opener on USA after being 5 years on Fox, and I get your thoughts on the Fox reign of SmackDown. I think the Cody and Solo should end tonight. I don't think that has to go to Bad Blood. You're talking about like another month for Solo and Cody Rhodes. You got Survivor Series War Games hanging out 2 months from now. Roman Reigns is back. I expect Roman to be there tonight. I think you set up Roman and Solo for Bad Blood, right?
I mean, I would do that. I don't know if they will. They're moving the storyline at a snail's pace. I mean, they had Roman return. I will say this, as far as one thing they should not do tonight is have Roman cost Solo the match the exact same way that he cost him at SummerSlam. I feel like Cody's got to win decisively on his own, at least without Roman Reigns. And then you can build towards Roman and Solo. Having Roman come out again just defeats the purpose of even doing the match. I'm not even really excited for this rematch, but to have Roman come out again to me would just be fucking lazy. So I would do Roman and Solo at Bad Blood. Move on from that. I mean, they could do another match, I guess, a rematch or whatever at some other point in the next couple of months. The bigger attraction, if they're doing, we don't know when Cody and The Rock is happening. I mean, you mentioned War Games in 2 months. I don't think if we're getting Cody and Rock, it's going to happen at any point in the next 6 months, or at least until WrestleMania. I think they're going to wait until WrestleMania to do it. I would do it sooner so we can get Rock and Roman at Mania, but it looks like they're saving that for even later down the road. And we might get Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu at WrestleMania, which I'm not complaining about. That would be fucking awesome. That is a much bigger attraction to me than Solo and Roman at Mania. So, I mean, I would do Roman and Solo at Bad Blood, but I don't know if that's necessarily the direction they're headed in.
So you wouldn't do Roman and Solo Bad Blood, and you wouldn't pull the trigger on The Rock and Cody at Bad Blood? Because and this is what I'm saying. You got War Games chilling for November, and it's like, what Twitter's been saying. We're gonna have this bloodline against that bloodline. Who's the tribal chief here? Tribal chief here. Like, all right, does that involve Cody Rhodes at all? Probably not. But at some point in time, are you gonna have a War Games match with Roman on one side and Solo on one side? But who else is there to add? And I think, if, like I said, TKO put that tweet out by eye emoji. Would The Rock show up? It wouldn't surprise me. Does he do anything? It wouldn't surprise me. But does he get actively involved in like the next storyline going on for Bad Blood or Survivor Series? That's a question you got to ask, because I think it's Roman and Solo for Bad Blood. Now, we still don't have a match for Cody. It ain't going to be Kevin Owens and unless it's Randy Orton. We just don't know. So right now, the main guy that you're promoting in the fucking promo on the posters and on the with Metro Boomin has no match right now. Then it's like, all right, what do we have for this guy? So that's the point. That's the question I have. Like, I could do Rock and Cody at Bad Blood. Why not?
Actually, you know what? I'm going to say no to that for the only reason of one. Well, I mean, first of all, it's a secondary pay-per-view, and I don't think Rock's going to wrestle on anything but a Big Four or at least WrestleMania.
But it's in Atlanta. So
it is in Atlanta. I mean, they should have a big match for Cody on that show. I mean, it could also be a case of where tonight Cody Rhodes, maybe he retains.
Yeah.
I think Roman will show up. We could still get Kevin Owens turning on Cody Rhodes, and they can resume that rivalry. Randy Orton could show up tonight. And I think they're teasing a mystery partner for Kevin Owens. It's obviously Randy Orton. They have to move on from this bullshit with Owens and Waller and Theory. It's been going on for like a fucking year. But you could have tonight be the night where Orton lays out Cody. I don't think they do that this soon. But if you want a big angle to close the show like you do to open the show, that would be one, possibility as well.
Yeah.
So
which I don't mind, because I'd rather see Orton turn heel than Kevin Owens.
I would too. The Owens heel turn. Yeah, I know. I would prefer that as well. I think Orton, not that he needs it more, but I just feel like if you're going to do Cody and Orton as a feud, you need heel Orton. You know, they have so much history and it just writes itself. The story does, with Orton being jealous and whatnot. I just feel like that makes the most sense. So, I mean, what I was going to mention was I would not do Cody and Rock at Bad Blood. Mostly, yeah, it's in Atlanta, but they're closing the show with that Hell in the Cell match. Punk and Drew, for as big as that feud is, has got to close the show. And Rock is not fucking curtain jerking at Bad Blood. So I think they would hold off at the very least until Survivor Series to do Rock and Cody. I don't think we get it at Bad Blood.
So final boss can be go mid card, can go in middle of the pack. No,
not a Bad Blood. He's not. You know, maybe Cody and Owens again, but not Rock. Not at least not on that show. I would do it before Mania. I think waiting another 6-7 months would be just too long. But that's just me.
Do you think they have Liv drop the title to Rhea at Bad Blood, or they extend Liv as champion? I think they should extend it. But you know how they play, you know, whatever with the title. I don't think Rhea needs it. I think she's better in chase mode, but it depends how long you want her to chase the title for. And I think they got Liv with the new Judgment Day and Dom. They got something really good, cool going on. I would hate for them to drop it right there and then. I know it's like an early month ahead of preview, but do you think Liv is going to hold on to that title?
I don't know. Between the two, I would probably just put the belt back on Rhea at this point. You can keep the belt on Liv. But I think, honestly, regardless of who wins, you still have the main issue of when this feud is over, and it should be over soon. Finn and Damian, they can stretch out for longer, but Rhea and Liv has been going on for a very long time.
Yeah.
They got to end it on the sooner side. It's definitely closer to the end of the feud than the beginning. But the problem still stands, regardless of who wins. Who do you have challenge that winner, that champion next? I mean, they don't really have a whole lot of depth on Raw specifically. SmackDown, you have a few different options. But on Raw, you really don't. I mean, on Raw, you have Lyra Valkyria, who's good, and she just got there, and you can do Lyra and Liv. I mean, Lyra hasn't done a whole lot lately, but that is an option. Natalya and Liv, give me a break. Zelina Vega, we already saw that. I don't really honestly know who else there even is on Raw to contend for the championship. And even if Rhea Ripley wins, who's a babyface, her and fucking Sonya Deville, like, who gives a shit? So I don't know. They're kind of at a Io Sky maybe potentially. They don't have a lot of lot of interesting options there either.
And Asuka, unless you bring Charlotte Flair back.
I think Raw could use Charlotte more. I think Charlotte goes to SmackDown though, because her husband Andrade is on SmackDown. So that's why I think.
Yeah, but SmackDown is pretty loaded right now. Bianca, Jade, who else we got on SmackDown?
Bianca, Jade, Tiffany, Bayley, Naomi,
Nia Jax, right?
Nia Jax, obviously the current champion. So that's a number of names right there. Raw does not nearly have that same amount of depth. So I would bring her back to Raw. I just don't think she is, because unless they move Andrade back to Raw, which I'm not really sure why they drafted him, to SmackDown in the first place if he's just going to go back to Raw. That's why I think she's probably headed to SmackDown. Also, not only that, but I think Nia is the champion right now. We just mentioned the WWE Women's Champion. Charlotte, the Queen of the Ring, is Nia Jax. So, I mean, I feel like they're headed for that feud that could kick off tonight. We could have Charlotte return. That also is a very, decent possibility for the end of the show tonight, where Charlotte comes back.
Unless you have Tiffany cash in on someone on the Raw side.
She could. I mean, they've been doing the whole story with her and Nia teasing tension, but the ultimate swerve would be her going to Raw. I would not mind that. But I would certainly not mind that, but we'll see where they go with that.
I keep mentioning it, but your boy Cody, Undisputed Champion, is number 1 on this PWI top 500. For those that don't know, I don't really follow these lists like that. I just see it on Twitter. So for those who don't know, number 10, Mystico, number 9, Gunther, number 8, John Moxley, 7, MJF, number 6, Damian Priest, number 5, Naoto.
Oh, it's Tetsuya Naito.
All right, there you go. Seth Rollins, 4, Will Ospreay, 3, Swerve Strickland, 2, Cody Rhodes, number 1. I don't think you're going to dispute number 1. When you see these top 10 lists, Did they get it right? Who should be on there? Who should be off? Or do you feel all 10? Those are the top 10, I guess, for the last year, right?
Yeah. So it is for the last year. Two things that are worth noting when people see these lists and complain about it. And I have my own issue with the list, which I'll talk about in a second. The main, issue with it, but I think it goes from June to June. I think it goes from June 30th to June 30th.
Okay.
So it's not just 2024. It's the latter half of last year and the first half of this year.
But why is that? Why is it June to June?
Because they want that out. They want it out in September. So they start writing the list at that point.
Okay.
As opposed to putting it out in March. I mean, as opposed to January to January, and then put it out in March or April. That's just how they've always done it. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Maybe because everyone else does their year-long list. I don't know. But that's just how they've always done it.
Yeah.
So that being said, not only that, but they go primarily off of kayfabe stuff. So if you won every match that you had for like a fucking year, they go off of quality too. I mean, I'm sure there's some people that have won every match they've had on a house show and don't wrestle on obviously they don't do that. But if they're important matches, they win matches and they wrestle frequently, then they will be towards the top of this list. Mm-hmm. Cody Rhodes is a logical number one because from June to June, I don't know of a singles match that man lost one on. Actually, he did. He lost to Drew on Raw earlier this year. But beyond that, he lost at Mania night one. He was pinned, but that was a tag team match. By and large, Cody did not lose a lot of matches in the last year. He won the tag titles briefly. He obviously won the championship, and he's been champion ever since. Mm-hmm. Won the Royal Rumble again. So he's had a pretty big year. Beat Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam last year. Mm-hmm. So he's a pretty logical number one. So you got to keep that stuff in mind when you look at lists like this because they go off of kayfabe stuff. For example, I don't know if you noticed this when you were reading it off. Roman Reigns wasn't even on there. That's a guy from June to March was the WWE champion the whole time, but he didn't wrestle all that much. He only had 3 matches. Nah. I agree with you. I mean, I think that's stupid, but that's just what they go off of. They've always done that. Like Brock is never really in the top 10 because he never really wrestles or never really wrestled during this run. So he was never really ranked high, even though he was champion and won all the time and was booked strong. Roman Reigns has almost always been in the top 10 in recent years, but only in the last year or two has he really toned down the in-ring schedule. So he's not even in the top 10. I don't know where he is, if he's on there at all, but he's not in the top 10. The only issue I have with this list from a kayfabe standpoint, if you go off of wins and losses, why the fuck is Gunther number 9? I mean, the guy literally won every match that he had. He suffered 1 loss at WrestleMania, immediately bounced back and won King of the Ring. Now he's world champion, but they don't count that because that was after the period, I think. Yeah. And he wrestles almost every single week. So, I mean, how is he 9? I can't remember a single thing John Moxley did in this past year, or even, I mean, Damian Priest was world champion, but he wasn't booked, super strong. So, I don't know. That was my only main issue with this list.
Obviously, I don't see Swerve a lot. I don't see Ospreay a lot.
They make sense to be up there. They're really,
and rightfully so. But I don't watch AEW like that as much as probably you do. MJF, I don't see him enough. John Mox, Gunther should be higher. I'm kind of happy Damian's on that list.
It is cool, yeah,
because he's probably the one guy that you don't really expect him to be on there, but I think that goes to show you what kind of year plus he's had with the company. Judgment Day, Senor Money in the Bank. He made events at Backlash in Puerto Rico, became world champion. So, I mean, even like a guy like Drew McIntyre is not on this list. Like I'm pretty sure he had a hell of a.
He did actually, yeah. No, he's not on this list.
You know what I'm saying? So like he's been around again. Like you say, if it's done in kayfabe and they pick people who are, perfect attendance and they wrestle everywhere, live events, PLEs, I get that. Yeah. That's why Cody number 1 is not shocking. Roman Reigns is not on here. It's shocking. I don't care if he fought 5 times. My man was champion for 3 years.
The biggest star in wrestling, I mean.
The biggest star. My man main evented 7, 8 WrestleManias in like 4 or 5 in a row. My man can't get over Mystico. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, but I guess it's good. It's good for conversation. It's good for banter. I don't think anybody's gonna see this and be like, oh man, they left me off the top 10. I'm gonna go, fucking go out there and perform my ass off. Like
they might. I don't know. Some people take this stuff seriously. Roman Reigns, I'm sure, does not give a single fuck about this list.
Nah,
but other people, I don't know.
Drew McIntyre probably don't care. Seth Rollins, 2024. I mean, listen, he was
world champion for a long time, so I can understand why he's up there.
But he's like he's the workhorse of the company. Like he's like, all right, someone gets hurt, yo, Seth, come on, yo, Seth. I know I gave you 2 months off, yo, come back. Like it's just like he's the backbone of the company, so he's the guy that they rely on. But I did see Swerve being AEW champion. No Bryan Danielson. I don't know what kind of year he had. Active or not, I don't know.
He was hurt a little bit, but I don't know. He should still be in the top 10. Again, one of the best wrestlers in the world. How the fuck is he not even on there? And he's a top star too. So yeah, that's weird.
So this is a pure wrestling thing, not character. Who the pops like
exactly? No.
Oh, okay. So
it's all wins and losses. It doesn't go off of like Drew's been one of the best parts of the entire product this past year, more than almost anyone else on that list. But he's not on there because he didn't win. I mean, I guess he won a world title for 5 minutes, but beyond that, he didn't win a whole lot of important matches, I guess. So they're not including that, which is stupid.
So guys like Jey Uso can't get on because he's,
I mean, I guess he did win a decent amount of matches, but not as many as Mystico. Again, I don't know.
That's right. I don't know that one. I mean, listen, I don't want to sound like I know who he is, but Mystico wrestles where?
He's in CMLL, like the AAA, like the Mexican promotions, and he's a star over there. And you don't want to discredit the smaller promotions just because they're smaller promotions. I get that. I don't know. I would just think like even Roman Reigns' one match at a crown jewel means more, and I don't know. That would to me take precedence over a match. I don't know. Mystico is great, and Tetsuya Naito as well. He's the New Japan World Champion. That one makes a little more sense because it's a bigger promotion, but I don't know. You would think Roman Reigns would be higher than someone who a majority, I would think, of the people reading the list have not seen a single match of theirs in the last year. So that's just me.
I mean, and to be fair, there's not a female that can crack that top 10. Or
I think they have a female separate list,
or to do a male and female. Okay.
Yeah, if they did include them both, and I think they may have done that 1 year and then stopped doing it. I don't know. If they did, I don't think anyone would even come in the top 10 anyway. Maybe Rhea, because Rhea was champion for pretty much the entire year. But again, she didn't have her reign was good, but it's not like she had this amazing run. So I don't even think she would crack the top 10.
I'm trying to see who the PWI have for 2023, just so I can just see if a female is on there.
I think they have their own list, but I could be wrong.
This is last year. All right, real quick. So compared to last year's top 10 to this year, it's a lot different. Seth was 1, Roman 2, John Mox 3, Gunther was 4. How did Gunther go from 4 to 9, and he was like undefeated until WrestleMania?
I guess he wrestled less matches this past year. I mean, dude, that makes no sense.
I mean, he deserves some fucking time off.
I mean, come on, that's just ridiculous.
Who else we had? 5 was El Hijo del Vikingo.
Vikingo. Yeah, you got another AAA talent. Yeah.
All right. MJF 6, Okada 7, Orange Cassidy 8, Josh Alexander 9, and Cody Rhodes was number 10.
Went from 10 to 1.
That's right, 10 to 1, and Gunther went from 4 to fucking 4 to 9, and he was undefeated as IC champ until Mania and became King of the Ring and became world champ. I know you said June to June, so they probably didn't count that.
Yeah, that's what it is. I don't know. That's pretty weird.
I just recall the days where every year it was like Okada and Omega on the top 3, top 4, top 5, and Roman would be like 9.
Yeah.
Time has changed, Graham. Time has changed.
I don't know. That's just how they do it nowadays. I don't know.
Are you happy, excited that this Saturday night's main event is coming back? I know this is way before your time, so this is kind of like my era of watching that program. in the late 80s and early 90s on NBC. You know, you had your Hogans, your Warriors, your Machos, Andre the Giant, and then they brought it back in recent years. I think in the late 2000s with Cena and Orton, Big Show, and those guys. But now with NBC and Peacock, I'm even hearing Jesse Ventura is going to be a commentator for. I think they're doing four specials, and I think he's going to commentate from what I'm hearing on at least one of them. So now everybody's in a good uproar, like, oh wow, they're bringing this back. This is throwback nostalgia. You know, Triple H bringing back what the people need, what the people want, as opposed to McMahon, which we'll get to later. But anything for you about this event coming back?
I think it's awesome. Like you said, I did not grow up on it. It's funny, even in the time that they brought it back 15, 20 years ago, I mean, there was only one of them in the time that I was watching wrestling, and that was the 08 one, and that was the last one they ever had. Now, I don't even think I watched that live. I may have watched it after the fact. I don't know. But, you know, beyond that, I have not seen any of them. I was not watching wrestling for any of them. So I think it's cool they're bringing it back. If they can make these primetime specials mean something. They're not on Fox anymore, so to have like a primetime special on NBC 4 times a year is cool. I don't know if it's confirmed that Jesse Ventura is doing commentary. I know that was a rumor last night. I don't trust the source, but I think that would make sense if they brought him back for that. That'd be fucking cool. He's older now, but listen, he can still. I know he just did an interview with Chris Van Vliet like recently, so he's like, you know, he's not like incapable of doing commentary. I don't think. I think he could do it. Obviously not on the weekly, but for like a one-off show, I think he could do it. I know he did commentary on Raw alongside Vince. He came back and hosted the show 15 years ago for a Thanksgiving edition of Raw back in 09. But again, that was 15 years ago. He's 15 years older, so I don't know if it's going to be the same. But I think that's awesome. I think it's really cool, and I'm excited for it. I think they were aiming for December for the first one. And I know they're doing a show opposite of AEW and AEW pay-per-view, their World's End show in Orlando, like the same city too. So if they really want to fuck with them, and I think it's dumb that they would, but they might. We could just do it that night at the end of the year on December 28th. I wouldn't do that myself. I think that'd be silly, but it's certainly something that they could do. So I don't know. I guess we'll see.
What I'm hoping for is that whenever this day is for December, that it could be like, you know, how they had the house show, the holiday tour at the Garden in New York, like after Christmas. Like I'm hoping that is now main event as opposed to a regular house show. But you know, I don't know when. I keep hearing December. Just a matter of what time frame. But
I would do that. I think that'd be cool. I think that would be awesome if they televised it. Not only this year, but I think we've talked about this next year as well for Cena's last match of his, because we know his last match is next December.
Yeah.
So as opposed to just, I mean, they could do a pay-per-view, but it would be cool if they did it in MSG and he ended his career there, and it was one of those NBC specials. So yeah, I would totally do that. I just don't know if they will.
The last main event we had was July 28th, 2008. Which aired in August. Before that, they had
one in 06, 07, I think.
They had 2 in 07.
2 in 07, okay.
May 28th in 07. Oh boy, this was the main event. Oh boy, oh god, Kane, Doink the Clown, and Eugene against Kevin Thorne, Viscera, and Umaga.
The fuck is that? I must have missed that one.
Then the other one in 07, August 13th, at the Garden.
Yeah.
CM Punk and the Boogeyman against John Morrison and Big Daddy V.
What the fuck?
The last one we had was in 08, Edge against Jeff Hardy. That sounds more reasonable. And the two before that was they had 2 in 06.
Okay.
The one they had in Detroit was the one I recall the most. Shane McMahon against Shawn Michaels in a street fight. I guess before WrestleMania. What WrestleMania was that? 2022? Maybe 22?
Yeah, I think it was right. Yeah. 22, yeah.
And then 06 July, Edge as champion against John Cena.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
and then not watch any of those.
The last one before that was 1992. Damn. So it took them 14 years to bring it back. and it took 16 years to bring it back now.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And that last one in '92, Bret Hart against Papa Shango for the World Championship. Papa Shango.
I can't see why they canceled it. That sounds like a
fucking
banger
Papa
main
Shango,
event,
right? Listen, I'm glad they're bringing it back. It's throwback, it's nostalgic, and to get these current guys and females to experience that. But I think the first one you got to do is at the Garden. It can't just be like I would do it LA and in Miami. It's got to be the Garden.
Yeah,
for me, that'd be better. I go down the block, go right to it, which could be a cool experience. If Ventura is announcing or not, just having it back, be on Peacock, NBC. I think it's on actual NBC, not just Peacock, in the actual channel.
Yeah, no, it's on NBC, I think. Yeah,
which could be cool. So they're going to go up against the football season, and maybe as football is winding down, I think that's the programming that comes in to kind of take their spot for like 4 weeks, which is fine. But I'm happy about that, and I know we mentioned McMahon, so this is probably the last part we're going to talk about. Anything else before I get to McMahon? Anything else that we missing? Should be brought up?
No, I don't think so. I think we kind of covered pretty much. I mean,
AEW had a pay-per-view last week. All in.
They had All In and All Out. I mean, they had a very good show. There's nothing that I can mention here that.
Speaking of AEW,
what
are these photos real?
Of Shane and Tony Khan?
Yeah, I know that's real. But like the crowd, like the Dynamites, they show the hard camp side, and there's nobody there, and like
that's real.
Wow.
They're only doing their Dynamites are like maybe 2,500 people at most weeks. I mean,
but it used to be more before that.
It was definitely higher before that. I think they were doing at least 5,000. I mean, I've been to a number of their shows. I mean, some sell well, some sell better than others, is what I mean to say. Not only that, though, and obviously you're a New Yorker, so you can attest to this or whatever, but they have their Grand Slam show every year. And that first one that had Omega and Danielson on it and Punk's on the show and whatever, that did 20,000 people at Arthur Ashe. That's where they hold it. Big attendance, highest attendance they've ever done up to that point, okay? So they do that. Following year, 13,000. Last year, I think maybe 10,000. I don't think they did 13, but it was a little less. As it stands right now, the show's in a week and a half. It might be at 4,000 people. 4,000 tickets sold. That's Arthur a fucking problem. Yeah, Arthur Ashe. That's not good.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they'll get a big walk-up crowd. They typically do, but that's still that's a big year after year drop off. That's pretty bad.
And this is in your mind, because I know you watch AEW more than me, but is this because obviously Cody's left, Punk is left, Jade left, a lot of people are leaving the company, and is it because there's no storylines, there's no meaning to these it just matches? Like, what do you? That's a big drop off. And obviously, we don't want anybody to fail. It's like I want to see people in the crowd and experience Dynamite and Rampage and whatever it is. But it's like there has to be a sole core reason or reasons why there was a decline. It's like War Wrestling Entertainment. Like they were dipping down, to be respectful. They were like this. It was bad. All of a sudden, this went off, and now they're at the fucking top of the game. How does AEW turn things around?
I don't think there's a quick fix. They've brought in a lot of people. They brought in Edge last year, Will Ospreay, Okada. They brought in your girl Mercedes, Sasha Banks. They have all been good additions to the company, and Ospreay specifically has fucking killed it. Mercedes is kind of
Ricochet recently too.
Yeah. None of them are major difference makers in the same way. And even he is not going to save. He even today would not save the company. And even then he didn't save the company. But I don't think any of them are the same difference maker that Punk was when he first came in. And even he wasn't a massive difference maker.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was a big attraction for a guy that had not wrestled in 7 years. And him coming in was a massive coup for Tony Khan, as well as Bryan Danielson. They're losing Danielson soon. Punk's not there anymore. Sting retired. That's another attraction gone. And they're bringing in new people, which is good. they just need, I don't want to say just focus more on storylines, because they do have a lot of good storylines, not nearly as many as WWE. But you look at some of their shows, and a lot of these matches are just fucking thrown together matches. And it's weird because the pay-per-views do have some good storylines, and the pay-per-views have been great. All In was very good. All Out last week was excellent. They've had some great shows. But when it comes to weekly TV, they just haven't been able to figure it out. They just don't have the same buzz they did 3 years ago when free agents were coming in all the time. That was an exciting period. They have not been able to regain that magic since the whole Punk press conference thing 2 years ago. That really took a shot to their reputation. I honestly don't really know. They got to do a better job of promoting the product. I can tell you that much. I know they're about to sign a big extension with Warner Brothers. That's cool, and that's obviously very positive news. I don't know if that's going to help their TV rights at all, like their TV ratings and shit and attendance. That's their biggest Achilles heel right now by far.
And I heard this Fox thing, they might have a meeting with Fox to kind of replace SmackDown. And I heard it might be a new show. And not just, I'll bring Rampage over here. It's a whole new rumor. Like, why would you do another show?
Dude, I can't. I can't. I think that's fucking stupid. And I can kind of segue this into my next point, my next question for you. But with the Fox thing, I mean, I assume that might be true. Some higher, more credible sources have said they did trademark a new show called AEW Shockwave. So they are doing a new show. It's just a matter of where it's going to air. And I don't know if it's going to be Fox necessarily. It might be FS1. Who gives a shit? No one's going to tune into FS1 to watch a show that probably will not matter in a month. They already have 3 shows as it currently is, not counting Ring of Honor. They have Dynamite, which is their flagship. Rampage was a big deal when it first started. They got Punk's first appearance on there. It died out within a year. No one gives a fuck about Rampage at this point. Collision was again, same thing. Punk kind of helped make that show when they first started it. He quit, got fired, whatever. And then it kind of went back to being nothing. I mean, the show's also not really worth watching. It's not consequential television. So their fix for that is doing more shows and having more hours of content. More is not always better. Quantity is not better than quality.
True.
Even Dynamite most weeks is not even must see. But to add other hours of television that don't fucking matter, when I'm not even saying WWE, because they had that issue for a long time too, where they were debuting new shows. No one watched almost any of them except for like me, because I just watch everything. But a lot of these shows did not matter. And WWE also thought quality or quantity over quality. And thankfully, it kind of feels like they've scaled back in recent years. What my next question for you was Raw going to 2 hours. I think that's a massive positive. Now they have a big roster where they don't have enough television time for everyone at this point. Guess what? We'll figure it out, dude. Figure it the fuck out. SmackDown is 2 hours. Make it work. If that means we're seeing less of pure Fusion Collective on my television screen, then good. If we're seeing less filler on Monday nights, then good. 8 to 10, I know you would prefer probably 9 to 11 because that's when Raw originally aired. I get that.
Yeah.
You got to keep it at 8 though, because it's been airing at 8 for 12 years. You should definitely keep it at 8.
No, we don't.
I think you do. I think it hurts the ratings if you have it at 9, then people
9?
tune in at 8 and it's not there. And people might not tune back in at 9. So I think keeping it at 8 makes more sense. And honestly, I'd rather have the show get done sooner. I'm fucking older now. I don't want the show to end at 11. I'd rather show be done at 10 and then I can go to bed or something. So I don't know.
You said a few things. One, I'm happy. You mentioned scale back. So Raw going to 2 hours for the remainder of the year until the Netflix deal comes in January.
It's only temporary, yeah.
Only temporary, but I think it's temporary, but like on purpose. Like let's see, because obviously when you're on Netflix, there's no time for you to get off the air.
That could be a problem. I don't want them going off. I'm
not saying go 4 hours on Raw. I'm just saying like it's like, let these 2 hours of Raw for the remainder of the year give me a nice resume of like how many people tune in, tune out. Are we getting more numbers? But at the same time, you feel like he or she may not get the airtime no more. But it's like back in the days, you make sure you got everybody on, and it was a bigger roster back then with bigger stars and more characters. But when I recall Raw and SmackDown back in the days, it was every 5 minutes somebody new. Boom, boom. Everybody from the low card, mid card to the heavyweight title contention was on Raw, and it's like it was a lot going on, but you got everybody to get a little 2-3 minute airtime. It could be a vignette, it could be a backstage promo, it could be as long as you're on TV because that's valuable airtime. And I think the 3 hours since it's been on for forever. It's like it's cool. We get everybody on, but it's like at some point in time, like you said, it's a lot of filler going on. I don't need this. Hey, be more dramatic here, more promos here. Like we're gonna see how that's going to affect the remainder of the year as far as the ratings go. And plus, football is back. So it's like, all right, that's gonna be a 4 hour, 3 hour game. You're now down to 2 hours. Let's see how this goes. They also cut back, I heard, on live events.
Mm-hmm.
So as going back to AEW, if you're gonna have a Dynamite, a Collision, a Rampage, and possibly a Shockwave, you got 4 shows that's gonna be maybe on the air, but then you really have to dilute all of that. You keep Dynamite, and you might have to cut Rampage or Collision. Keep one. You can't have 4 shows.
They shouldn't even have 3, dude. I mean, especially with the company that, and what I was going to say earlier, and I think I forgot, that WWE, at least they have and had the excuse of a brand split. So you're seeing different people on these shows. NXT on Tuesdays is a 2-hour show. Like, they have a lot of hours of content weekly as well. They have the 2-hour NXT, a 3-hour Raw for now, and it will be on Netflix. 2 hours of SmackDown. But it's all different people, though. When you watch these AEW shows, I'm telling you, dude, on Dynamite is the important stuff and the important people most weeks. The other shows do not mean anything. You miss absolutely fuck all by not watching those shows. They just do not matter. They have good matches. Great, dude. I can go on fucking YouTube and watch 10 good matches right now. I can watch any wrestling show and watch good matches. That is not enough for me to go out of my way to watch it. If I didn't have to watch this stuff, I probably would not watch a lot of those AEW shows because they simply do not matter. At least with WWE, when the product sucked, you could say, okay, I don't need to watch SmackDown. The product's awful. But at least there's different stuff happening. You can't, if you're a WWE fan and you want to keep up with these shows, you can't not watch SmackDown. I mean, unless you want to catch highlights on Twitter and YouTube and shit. But like the WWE champion Cody Rhodes is on SmackDown. Roman Reigns is on SmackDown. I kind of have to watch that show. Raw has a lot of good stuff going on as well. They have CM Punk. They got Drew. They have Rollins, Rhea, Liv. Like, I have to watch Raw. And NXT, you don't really have to watch, obviously, but it has the up-and-coming talent. That's the whole appeal of the show. All these AEW shows, it's Dynamite and then everything else. They are not fucking important, and that is why less is more with those shows. That they just need to stop doing this.
You're right. And I think if AEW was to cut back, utilize the digital space more, you keep Dynamite on TV, but then like maybe a Collision Rampage is like a YouTube thing. Like you told me, I never saw it, but what the Young Bucks was doing and the All Elite, what the Elite, they had its own TV show, and more people saw that than the actual fucking.
I think so. Some of those shows, being the Elite, they had more shit going on that show, which they don't have anymore, thankfully. But it was better than what we were seeing on what we see on Rampage now. I mean, nothing happens. It's all lower level people and all squashes for the most part. Who cares, dude? Like, who gives a fuck?
But I also think too, what could be cool that now Raw is on 2 hours every Monday night, and if people are still used to that 3 hour time frame, either A, you could do this. Let's say you do remain at 8 o'clock. 10 o'clock hits, you do the Raw talk, either A, on the network, which I doubt, or B, you go to no. Either on USA Raw Talk or go to the network and watch the backstage interviews and the recap. Like, you keep the flow going. Like, I'm giving you 3 hours of content. I'm just not giving you 3 hours of wrestling on USA Network.
Yeah, I mean, they do Raw Talk now. No one watches it, obviously, but they do it on Peacock after the show. So I mean, if they really
on Peacock, then
they could really. They don't. No one knows about it because they don't talk about it on Raw at all. But they could really emphasize that and make that a bigger deal by having it start sooner, and it's more content. So yeah, they could definitely do that. I honestly don't really care that it's 2 hours. I love the fact that it's 2 hours. Less is more. Cut down on the bullshit. Cut down on the filler. Raw, even most weeks when it's a great show, is still tiring because it's 3 hours. I don't think anything. I know like football can go 3 hours. That you can't really control, but like movies, TV shows, sports, anything approaching the 3 hour mark, dude, is fucking exhausting. As a consumer, watcher, reviewer, whatever, it's just too much. Unless it's a pay-per-view, that's fine. But I do not need to sit here and watch a show or a movie or a wrestling show for 3 hours. I just think that's excessive. So I'm glad they're going to 2 hours. I will take what I can get for only 3 months. They are definitely going back to 3 hours in January, because then I think Netflix bought them with the idea that it's 3 hours of content. They don't have to fill out a TV schedule, because that's not what it is. It's fucking Netflix. It's not like an 8 to 11 block. Although I think it will air at 8 rather.
Yeah.
I will just take it for what it is at 2 hours for as long as we will get it from October to January.
And the first 3 hour Raw we had was July 23rd, 2012. So we've had 12 years of 3 hour Raws, beginning with the 1000th episode.
I almost said I was going to say that they've been 3 hours for longer than they were ever 2 hours. But that's not true, though. When did they go to 2 hours? They were 1 hour at first. Raw was a 1 hour show.
2 hours must have, remember, because now when you had Nitro going on, that's kind of like what made them change, maybe from 1 to 2, obviously then 2 to 3. I seen 3 hour Raw before that, but I without it being in front of my face, I want to say a 2 hour Raws must have been 96, 97.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. All right, in 2000, they were obviously 2 hours. 96, they were an hour. 97, they went to 2 hours.
Oh, February 3rd, 97. Raw went to a 2 hour format to compete with the extra hour on Nitro, which went from 1 to 2 hours in the spring of 96. And then by March 10th, it was renamed Raw's War. So 1997, February 97 was the first 2 hour Raw.
The fact that Nitro went from an hour to 2 to 3 in that quickly of a time is fucking crazy. 3 hours they went. They didn't even like gradually do it. It was like a quick, like, hey, 1 to 2 to 3. That is so excessive. No wonder the show failed.
It was a lot going on, Grant. There's a lot going on.
I think Nitro, that was the same. Like, why Raw never? Yeah, they went to 2 hours to compete with Nitro, but they didn't go to 3 hours though until 2012, and that wasn't to compete with anyone. That was just because they had more money from USA Network or NBC or whatever to go to 3 hours, so they went to 3 hours. In 97, it made sense, but in WCW went from 1 to 2 to 3 extremely quickly. They had Thunder. Again, what really important stuff happened on Thunder after the first little while? Again, you watched WCW. I did not, so I don't know. But I feel like WCW kind of followed the same format or same formula that AEW currently is, where all more is better, do all these shows, 2-3 hours. Like, it's just too much, dude. It's too much, especially when a lot of the shit does not matter or it's not great television. And you're going to have a smaller, the more television you have, the greater margin for error is in terms of not having shit that really matters, more filler, because you're just filling time for the sake of filling or killing time. Yeah. And that's where AEW is at right now. I don't want to see them become WCW 2.0, but I feel like we're approaching that territory.
And before I move on to the final portion, Nitro, which was an hour, Nitro went to 2 hours following the 1996 NBA playoffs on TNT. Raw would later go to 2 hours in February of 97. In January of 98, Nitro will go to 3 hours.
That's so bad. That's really bad.
So it was 1 hour in the 95. So not even like a full year of being 1 hour because of the NBA playoffs. And then from 96 to 98, it was 2 hours. And 98 on, it was 3 hours. So that's the time frame for Nitro. Because I get it.
It's crazy.
Because once NWO came on, it was like, no, I need 2 hours now.
Yeah.
Because NBA playoffs were April and May of 96. Scott Hall don't come into May of 96. So once that was coming on board, more money, more advertising, more viewers. I need 1 more hour. But then, they fucked it up when they added Thunder. So, yeah.
I mean, that makes sense, though. I mean, because they had the star power at that point. But 3 hours, even with the stars that they had, was so bad. I mean, that's so excessive.
All right, Graham, before I let you go, beginning on the 25th of September, Netflix is airing the documentary, Mr. McMahon. Plus, Raw is going to Netflix in January, so this is kind of very interesting. McMahon is in it. We know a lot of other guys are going to be in it. It's about the career, the rise and fall, the billionaire, the Mr. McMahon and Vince McMahon, the family. I get all that, but now they're adding the whole allegation stuff to the end of it. Bill Simmons is behind it. He's a big wrestling fan. I think a 6-part series. I think all being released at the same time. So, how intrigued are you for this to come out? What are you looking for? Because as a fan, you probably might know a lot of the story of Vince and his dad and the territories and all that WrestleMania, no money and being broke for WrestleMania and building this large empire and being one of the smartest guys in sports, presenting sports entertainment in its entirety. But we know the guy is not the greatest guy in the world, and it's been proven that. And just to see this him being in it and not having the final say, and I heard a rumor that he was okay with. He's like, "Yo, bring it on! Like, I don't care if you're gonna bring it up. Let's do it." So, what are you waiting for this documentary?
I think it'll be good. I don't think it'll be like this amazing hit piece, if you want to call it that. I mean, I think we'll learn a lot about his life. It's not going to be 6 episodes of breaking down every Vince McMahon controversy ever. I mean, that's just not what this is. And also, I would imagine if Vince's the lips are moving, then he's lying. So, I mean, I imagine a lot of the stuff that he says will be exaggerated, but it will be interesting to see him in that environment. Obviously, all these interviews took place before the Janelle Grant stuff happened. So he's not talking about any of that or any of this stuff from 2 years ago or whatever. This was all while he was still running the company in the regular role 2.5 years ago. All right. So I'm looking forward to it. I think Netflix will do a good job with it. Bill Simmons is in charge of the product, was in charge of the product. He's a wrestling fan, so I trust that he hopefully did justice by it. WWE not having final say over it is a big thing because it's not a Peacock documentary on Vince McMahon. That would just be a fucking puff piece, obviously. I don't know if Netflix really wants to damage the relationship with WWE before they even get to January, but you know what? The guy doesn't work there anymore. Who cares? Like, just fucking bury him. They're technically burying the company as well because he was in the company when he was doing some of the stuff and running it, obviously. But like Netflix, I mean, it's not like Netflix. They're the ones hosting WWE. So if they want to piss off WWE, I really don't see the problem with that, because if it was the other way around and WWE was pissing off Netflix might be like, hey, they wouldn't back out of the deal, but they could be like, hey, we don't really want to do business with you. Netflix is like, hey, listen, you're coming to our network. We're going to fucking portray you how we want. And it's only one documentary. It's not like they're putting out all these docs. And they have another Netflix doc out now, another wrestling thing I saw. Heels is also going there, and that's a great show.
But they got 6 hours of this, like 6 hours of like.
I don't know. Is it an hour each? I don't know how long.
It's an hour, 6 episodes at an hour. It's like the Last Dance, the Chicago Bulls.
Okay, that was an amazing documentary.
6 hours worth of content.
I mean, with Vince McMahon, there's a lot of stories there to share about his early life and stuff. So that's what I'm saying. I feel like the first couple of episodes, at least, if not half, if not more than half of this documentary will be, how he grew up and the first WrestleMania, maybe the Monday Night War shit. We don't need to hear about that for the millionth time. Right. But, I just feel like a lot of it will be the rise of WWE with Vince in charge. I feel like we've heard this a million times. I really don't care too much about that,
but not from him though. I think that's the main difference. Not from we've heard it from just about everybody except him, but he might have a different take. He might give you little bits of information that we don't know. But again, like the whole Monday Night War, we've heard it from like 1,000 people. But like from his spin, okay, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. All right, thank you for telling me. But like, it's got to be for me. I'm interested in like 02 at post attitude era Monday Night War, and then on, and then like going through, obviously we know the steroid stuff in 93 with Hogan and the steroid trial, and
they are covering that,
but then it's like what happens from 02 on is like that's the portion of the company that we don't know too much about.
I mean, if you want to cover that with his point of view, sure. It's got to be interesting stuff. I don't want to hear the same shit that we've heard before.
I don't need to hear about Shane involved. Linda, and I'm saying
yeah,
they're gonna bring in Shane, Linda, Hunter, Stephanie, and marrying Stephanie. Like, how did it's little things like that, but it's like,
I just don't want to hear 6 hours of, oh man, Vince is such a genius. Like, okay, we've heard this, bro. Like, I'm not even denying that about his, like, most of his career, but like, they've done this shit. They've done docs on Vince before, as far as this stuff goes. I want to hear, for as fucking twisted as it sounds, I want to hear about it, like his personal, like the guy I think was like molested as a kid, like stuff like that. Like, I need to, like, what made like, I honestly think it ties into stuff today too, because he was fucked up as a kid. Like, he had a very bad upbringing. I need to hear more about that from his perspective, if he's willing to open up on it. Like, shit that we have not heard before that explains why he is as weird and as fucked up as he is. He is an evil human being, it sounds like, from a lot of different perspectives. I need to hear about his life from that standpoint, as to why he is the way that he is today. Just hearing about, oh, you know, I created this company from the ground up. Okay, fucking who cares? Like, we know, but like, they don't need to do a 6-hour documentary glorifying the guy. I know they will cover like some of the lawsuit stuff, because it is recent, and how can you ignore that? But I want to hear more about him as a person, and not just I created the company. Like, you need to touch upon that, but that shouldn't be the main focus, in my opinion. But I'm sure it will be.
I think Vince, last point, Vince needs to explain how, because it's very important to me, how the World Wildlife Fund came in and made you change from WWF to WWE.
I mean, that may not even be in the top 50 things that are like of interest of him to talk about. So it would be interesting, but you know, we'll see. I don't know.
Listen, man, all jokes aside, it's going to be a very interesting documentary. I think all the Netflix docs I've seen, whether it's football or whatever, this is probably going to be, you know, listen, there's a lot of breaking news. It's a lot of fans of wrestling out there. And just they love the controversy, they love the gossip. I got people that's gonna say they're gonna review every show afterwards. And like, if you want to do that, Graham, we could review every show one by one. I got no problem with that. But it's gonna be a very talked about documentary. Some are gonna say, I already know that. But as you get to maybe episode 3 or 4, things might change. Like, oh shit, it's getting very interesting now. But to get 6 hours worth of content, and McMahon is in a lot of hours, him talking himself.
That's the real key here. It's not just about him. It's him talking.
It's not people talking for him. It's himself. So I think that's the big caveat in this documentary. I can't wait. But Graham, anything else we are leaving on the table before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I think after a while of not doing this, I think we caught up on pretty much everything.
Yeah. SmackDown tonight, USA Network debut. First time. Matter of fact, real legit last question. What's your overall take on the SmackDown era on Fox?
You know, so I can't say I liked it, because those early years were fucking rough. It is interesting. I was speaking with someone about this yesterday. It is interesting that WWE, or Fox rather, signed WWE to an extremely lucrative 5-year deal in 2018. And if you think back to 2018, the product was some of the worst shit they were putting out at that point was in 2018, 2019. Fucking awful. Okay. The product now is as hot as it's been in 20 years, 25 years. And Fox isn't going to give them a high. I mean, they obviously went back to USA. It all worked out. But it's interesting, though, that they're going back to USA, and not crawling back. They got a lot of money to go back there for SmackDown. But if the product was this, and it is that hot, it's just interesting to me that they offered them that much money 5 years ago. Maybe they thought that it would do better than it did. Maybe that was the big indicator. But I mean, they did some good stuff on Fox the last couple of years with the Bloodline. Those first few years, I mean, COVID you can't control. Those first 6 months to a year were some of the worst programming, content, quality, whatever, content in SmackDown history. So that's my overall assessment of SmackDown on Fox.
And I think them going back, you know, having the NBC Universal Peacock lineage there, I think they could do more digital stuff with USA than they can with Fox. I think that's, you know, again, there's many reasons why. I'm not in the boardroom with them, but I think that was just an extra thing. Like, we can do more with the digital space, and that's what they're living off, just the digital content space. And I mean, I did not see every SmackDown, but I recall the first one with Brock and Kofi for the world title. The Rey Mysterio coming out with the fighter. What's his name?
Velasquez. Yeah.
I recall that.
That went nowhere.
Obviously, recently with The Rock and Roman Reigns and the Bloodline, the pandemic, Thunderdome, and that was a time. And I know Fox did not sign up for that, but it is what it is. And I think they made the best out of it, of a crazy situation. But once they got fans back in the arenas, I always said, the Bailey and the Sasha and the Ortons, and they really held down the pandemic era.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that point on, like, I'm trying to recall what else happened really on SmackDown from 21 to like 23, if it's not Roman, Paul Heyman.
It was a lot of it revolved around Roman and Brock, honestly. Yeah. It was really the Bloodline show. Sami Zayn, that's about it.
Well, hopefully SmackDown is going to be different than Raw on USA Friday night, different vibes. So we'll see what happens with that. I think it's 25 years SmackDown's been around. Wow.
Yeah, 25 years, yeah.
Yo, that's crazy, bro. Time flies. Mm-hmm. Graham, not going to keep you any longer, man. I thank you, man. I love you, bro. You can find Graham on Twitter at Wrestle Ranch. Great work for both Bleacher Report and FanSided Daily DDT. Find myself, Randy J. Cruz, RENDY, letter J C RUZ. Find the audio podcast on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, also on Amazon Music. Go ahead, download, rate, comment, subscribe on youtube.com/Cruise Control Podcast. Show us some love and support for your boys on the program. For myself, Randy Cruz, Graham Matthews. Thank you, man, and I greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely, brother. I'll speak to you soon.
All right, man. Take it easy.
You too.
All right, bet.